Hello, we're going to do section 2 of Access Databases. This is the module 5 of the ECDL qualification that we do here at Coventry. What we're going to look at today is going to have a look around the Access window. We're going to have a look at the primary key, the field properties that display what goes on in the front end in the data input sheet. We're going to look at index fields, the default value, automatic field, required field, and the validation area. Database is a demonstration, and we've got a number of tables in here. We've got a number of queries, forms, and reports. So remember that the tables are the original set of data. The queries are extracting data from the tables in a particular way if you want to extract and analyze specific information. The forms are a way of displaying those records in one record at a time, which is very user-friendly and good for data protection. And reports are for compiling information, taking them along to meetings, printed out, etc. So if we look at this button here, there's little shuttle buttons. There's one there that shuttles it in and out, so you've got more space in your window. This one here, you can see that you can see different objects depending on what is selected. So remember, if you're taking an ECDL exam, if you're asked to do something with reports and you can't see them or something else, then if you click on all access objects, you will be able to see everything that's available in that database. So if we look at the Home tab, there's not a lot going on compared to some of the others. We've got, if I just double click on a table to open things up so it lights up a little bit. We've got our usual cut and copy, paste, etc. We've got a sorting and filtering area we'll be looking at later. Ways of deleting stuff, so we can right click a record and delete, or we can highlight a record like that and use that delete. We have a right click down, we can change the field widths, etc. There, got it, and the same for rows. Or you can use this area here for row height and column widths. We've got a search or a find, where you can find things just in the same way as you would in Excel or Word, but with databases you must select column, the field area that you're going to do a find in, because remember, Access can have several fields with the same type of data in. For example, you've got 120 there and 120 there, so you must click in there before you use the find command. Then we've got the formatting. Not a lot of text formatting going on in database, don't tend to use it a lot, but it's there if you want to fancy things up a little bit. So there's also, as we've seen earlier, if you came along with me on the creating a table with table design, we had the creating a query with query design. People say, why don't you use Query Wizard in the test? Well, unless you're asked to, we suggest strongly that you do stick to Query Design, because the wizard will take you through the motions as the form wizard here that we use and the report wizard that we use. But the thing is, you won't be able to put any criteria in, so you won't be able to put any criteria to draw out and analyze. So it's just takes you through from the beginning to end without doing that feature. So you do need to use that if you're asked to use some criteria. Remember, the simple form can be used in the test, but remember, if you use a simple form, it's exactly replicating the table in every way, even its name. Otherwise you must use the wizard. And then we've got the report wizard as well. So that's the window part. Now we've got a little bit in here that we look at in the test, and that's exporting to somewhere like Excel or something, a useful tool if you've got lots of information and you want to export it to Excel to do other things. We've got our database tab where we find our relationships, which is in here. And when we go on to do queries, etc., we will get extra tabs up here, so we have things like running and things like that, so we can use our queries. So let's have a look at some field properties in the back end of a database. So if you close there, a quick way of getting into the back end or the design, let's just click on the home tab so we can see it. The design view of a table is to right click and design view, and then that takes you into the area to remember where we created fields that have the correct data type here, okay, according to what you want. So each field, if you click in it, has its own field properties down here at the bottom. And a primary key, you can tell it's a primary key because it's got a key put there, is a natural index, and it's always a long integer with regard to its field size. So that's something you don't change. The indexing is here where it says yes, no duplicates, and this means that there's only one type, one unique identifier, for example one BCS number, many people having them, or one car part, many people ordering them. So there's just one unique identification of that, and it's yes, no duplicates with regard to indexing. If we click on some other fields, they can have their field sizes changed, and you can pop them in like this. You just overtype. The thing to remember about field size in the exam is that if you're asked to reduce field size, it will ask you what will happen to your data if you do it in an existing database. And obviously if you reduce it too much and you have data in your datasheet input area, then it may not be able to have enough space to put the rest of the characters, therefore the data becomes truncated or lost. So field size can matter if you're reducing. If you're increasing, then obviously that'll be fine. There are sometimes different formats. There's none in here, but you can do a bit of formatting on some things. For example, if we look to the date, click in the date, and you've got a format option there, and you can change the type of date that you have in your database. The other areas, if we look at the hours on this field, we have a validation rule. And the validation rule is saying that you cannot input more than 3 in that field. So we look to the front end onto the datasheet view, and it always asks us to save. And you can see that in here, the highest amount of hours are 3. So that means that you can't input any more than 3. So if I went like that and I tried to put 6 in and enter, then this message comes up, and it's this message. If it gets stuck into that 6, I'll just undo, and it goes back to what it was. And then I can go back into the back end, the design view, and you can see that that message that came up on the front is actually the message that I typed in there. So in the validation rule area, we must use operators, as in less than, equal to, or greater than, and equal to, or just less than or greater than, depending on what you want. So we can also use text in there with speech marks on it. So there's lots of things that you can use for a validation rule to make sure that people put things in the correct manner and use the correct input and data. Another area we can look at is the default value, and I've got one here in the, if we right click on the contact table and click in the design, you can see in the town city there is a default value called Lenton. Default values are used for common fields that are often come up, and they could be also overtyped or overridden if you don't want to use that, and they're there automatically. So if we look at the datasheet view here, you can see there's the default value, or as they call it in the test as well, is an automatic field, and it means that the inputter can come along and they don't have to change that, but you can see that it can be overtyped so that you can put something else in if you wish to, and that can be used in lots of ways. So that's a default value. The other area to look at is the required. So there's only a matter of yes and no. So they ask you to put in a yes for the required, that's what you do, because sometimes a field needs to be completed. And just to go back to indexes just very quickly before we looked at the primary key here, that was a natural index we said here, but other fields can be indexed as well. So you could index other fields, and the way that you do it is you go down to the index, click in the field you want, down to the index, click on there and say yes, duplicates, OK, and click out to make sure it's finalized. And you could do that with a number of areas, as that one's been done as well. If you want to see what's indexed in your table, you can click on there and it will show you the automatic primary key is indexed automatically, and then you've done 2 others. So what an index does is it sorts through quickly to find your indexed items first, the most common used ones, quicker. But what it will do as well is it will increase your database, so be very careful how you use it. So we just want to revisit the primary keys so we can show you how to put one on and put one off, take one off. So you can see that we talked about it earlier as being a unique identifier, and you can see down here it's yes, no duplicates. But if I want to show you that, I have to change the relationship first. So I'm just going to close the table down, and then I'm going to get rid of this relationship on that key, that club primary key, so I can show you how we replace it. So delete that relationship and OK. Open up the club again into Design View, highlight the field you want to primary key, unique identifier, and that's me taking it off, and then that's me putting it on. And then you can save, and that's done as far as the primary key, and you can close. And then I'm going to go back to the relationship. Do you remember how we recreated the relationship between the club table club ref primary key and the club ref foreign key in the club facility table, and drop it there, click on enforce referential integrity and create, and there's the relationship. So that's taken us through today's session, which has been the primary key at the beginning and then again at the end, a bit of formatting, looking at the field properties, indexes, default value, required field, and the creating the validation rule within those field properties, and then a little bit about the primary key again, and a little bit about relationships and around the window. So we're going to move on to another session. If you want to come along with me, then you're more than welcome. I'm going to look at relationships in a little bit more depth.